sorry, acting minister in the presidency. How are you?
Good morning, good morning. Thank you. How are you, Comrade Buroto?
I'm good, my sister. I was just logging in. I'll come back later.
What time are we starting at?
Okay. 10.
It's
exactly
10.
10 o'clock.
Okay, no, that's fine. No, thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
You can have your coffee.
No, I need that.
Yeah. Okay. Good luck, my sister.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good morning, honorable members. Let me welcome you, everyone who has logged into the virtual mini plenary session. There will now be an opportunity for silent prayer or meditation. Thank you very much, honorable members. Before I proceed, I would like to remind you that the virtual mini plenary is deemed to be in the precinct of Parliament and constitute a meeting of the National Assembly for the debating purposes only. In addition to the rules of virtual sittings, the rules of the National Assembly, including the rules of debate, shall apply. Members enjoy the same powers and privileges that apply in a sitting of the National Assembly. Members should equally note that anything said in the virtual platform is deemed to have been said to the House and may be ruled upon. All members who have logged in shall be considered to be present and are requested to mute their microphones and only unmute when recognized to speak. This is because the mics are very sensitive and will pick up noise, which might disturb the attention of other members when recognized to speak. Please unmute your microphone and connect your video. Members may make use of the icons on the bar at the bottom of their screens, which has an option that allows a member to put up his or her hand to raise points of order. The Secretariat will assist in alerting the chairperson to members requesting to speak. When using the virtual platform, members are urged to refrain or desist from unnecessary points of order and interjections. We shall now proceed to the order, which is a debate on government, vote for government communications and information systems. May I take the opportunity to invite the Honorable Acting Javeni Nakokyali. Thank you.
House Chair Boroto. House Chairperson, the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Communication, Honorable Boisima Nedi, members of the Portfolio Committee, honorable members, the Director General of the GCIS, Ms. Pumla Williams, and her team at the GCIS, ladies and gentlemen, and the Deputy Minister, Honorable Thembi Siweya. Good morning. We are here today to present budget vote number 4 for the Government Communications and Information System for the financial year 2021-2022. We are tabling this budget when the world is still in the grasp of the deadly COVID-19 pandemic that is leaving behind a trail of deaths in our communities, families, places of work. Even in this house, we continue to lose members, our dearest colleagues. As we continue to pray for our country, nations of the world, our families and self, those infected and those who have lost loved ones, the responsibilities entrusted to the GCIS during its conceptions have never been more relevant. Just for collective memory, the government communications system was created with the following objectives in mind. 1, to ensure coherence in the communication such that all citizens and communities have access to information that adequately allows them to take advantage of the opportunities to improve their lives and take part as citizens in their public affairs. Secondly, to drive government to speak with one voice. Thirdly, to maintain a citizen-focused continuous dialogue. And fourthly, to harnessing goodwill for productive purposes by helping to shape the national mood and nation building. Faced with continuous emergence of new waves of infections, new variants of the virus, vaccines hoarding by developed or vaccine-producing nations, dissemination of livelihoods and lives, worsening hunger and conditions of living, and the mixed economic recovery prospects. The global picture has never been this depressing, at least in this our lifetime. The responsibility for government to work to restore hope is paramount, and the government communication and information system must not only coherently communicate this hope, but the work that government is doing to rebuild the nation. When COVID-19 hit our shores, government activated the state of disaster to enable access to key resources and the reprioritization of budgets to save lives and livelihoods. At that point, it was clear that the global community had limited resources for medical interventions, and South Africa was not an exception. Government had to strengthen partnerships, that what we commonly refer to as social compacts, with communities, business, and labor for an effective response to the pandemic. Honorable members, the social compacts required South Africans to become our first line of defense as a nation by adhering to the disaster management regulations and implementing the non-pharmaceutical health protocols. As a country, we owe a debt of gratitude to my late colleague, Minister Jackson Mthembu, and the GCIS team that led the mobilization of South Africans behind the calls to stay at home and stay safe, to wear masks, wash hands with soap or sanitize with 70% alcohol-based sanitizers, and maintaining a 1.5 meter social distance. Through these campaigns, South Africa was able to get through our first wave of COVID-19, and the devastation of the second wave. Although it was harsh, we were spared the worst. Unfortunately, it was the second wave that could not spare us the life of Minister Mthembu, our many other colleagues in the House, and many more South Africans. However, the collective effort, that social compact among South Africans, enabled us to come out of the second wave. We were highly rated across the world. Maybe the best paraphrase was by the renowned CNN medical correspondent and associate professor of neurosurgery, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, who said, I quote, "That steep decline is not because of vaccines. That is a reminder that basic public health measures work. South Africa reminds us what is possible," I close quote. Honorable Chairperson, in the 2021-2022 financial year, the GCIS is required to deliver on the fourth objectives that I've stated earlier, but on 4 key programs of government, which are: 1, to mobilize South Africans to continue the fight against COVID-19, and this will be done in 2 ways. A, promoting continued adherence to the non-pharmaceutical health measures of wearing masks in public, washing hands with soap or sanitizing with 70% alcohol-based sanitizer, and maintaining a social distance of 1.5 meters. B, to mobilize South Africans to join the COVID-19 vaccination program, because it is only when the country attains population immunity through vaccination that our new normal life will commence. And secondly, the second program is providing adequate information about the economic reconstruction and recovery plan to enable citizens to take advantage of the opportunities to improve their lives. Third is to mobilize South Africans for the fight against corruption and the quest to build a capable state as part of citizens' contribution to nation building. And fourth, but not least, enhance and maintain continuous national dialogue on the fight against gender-based violence and femicide and the pursuit of safe communities. Honorable members, the budget we are tabling today will never be sufficient for the task at hand and updating the institution to the communication system of the future, which has become the communication system of today, of digital technologies and other related technologies. Excuse me. Over the medium-term expenditure framework, the GCIS has been allocated a total of 2.17 billion rands, which is a continuous declining budget. This budget includes allocation for Brand SA and Media Development and Diversity Agency. The allocations are as follows. For GCIS in the 2021-2022 financial year, the allocation is 749,684 million. But that allocation includes an allocation of 213.4 million to the Brand SA and 33 million to the MDDA. The actual allocation to GCIS, therefore, is 503,284 million. And the actual MTSF allocation for GCIS is therefore 1.34 billion rands. On Brand SA, an allocation to Brand SA is made when we are fully aware that the founding prescripts of this agency envisage an entity that will be self-sustaining and not to be reliant on the fiscus. The objective of a self-sufficient Brand SA remain elusive, and material conditions make it impossible for Brand SA to commence a path towards self-sustenance. In 2019, Cabinet took a decision to rationalize Brand SA and Tourism South Africa into a single marketing entity of the Republic. The bulk of the work towards the rationalization of the two entities was done by my predecessor, the late Minister Mthembu, together with the Minister of Tourism. Some of the measures he instituted was the introduction of a moratorium on the filling of executive positions. Given developments that also affect Tourism SA, the Minister of Tourism has now instituted measures that triggered the need to commence the rationalization and will work together towards this. In addition, the acting minister is considering proposals from both the Board of Trustees and the GCIS on how to improve the performance of Brand SA as we work towards a rationalized entity. Given the challenges that beset Brand SA over the years, the acting minister has directed the DG of GCIS to work with Brand SA on the programs that must be implemented to ensure the agency executes in line with its mandate as per the founding papers. Therefore, the tranches to Brand SA will be transferred based on agreement on programs, except the tranches related to administration, for example, cost of employees, accommodation, and related costs. This will be transferred beforehand. And on the Media Development and Diversity Agency, popularly known as the MDDA, the budget allocation to the MDDA will support the work to transform the media industry. The Media Development and Diversity Amendment Bill 2021 will review the MDDA Amendment Act to align it to key technological developments in the sector and good corporate governance practices has commenced. In addition, the MDDA will submit comments on the amendments of the Electronic Communications Act and the SABC Act because the opportunities for advancing media development and diversity will be widened by the digital migration that the Minister of Digital Communications and Digital Technologies is leading. This opportunity must be used optimally to advance true transformation in the media and enable participation by Blacks, women, youth, and persons with disability in the sector, which ownership is almost exclusive. Budgeted programs for GCIS are as follows: administration, 275.1 million for the cost of employees, 125 million for administrative costs, that is office accommodation, information technology related, and other related work. We also have a 50 million rands once-off special COVID-19 communication allocation. The production and distribution budget is 178.2 million, and provincial outreach program is 13 million and research 5 million. We continue to prioritize this limited and continuously declining resources to fund the execution of such critical mandate. Ladies and gentlemen, to mobilize South Africans to continue the fight against COVID-19, through this budget, the GCIS will continue to implement our outreach programs designed to reach people where they work or reside. This will include taxi ranks, mall activations, panel discussions on local community media and mainstream radio and television stations. Messages will continue to be packaged in all 11 official languages. I must concede that getting messages across to the people has been a mammoth task, but one which GCIS has embraced and made considerable gains in this front through a combination of old-style outreach activations and coupled with a massive presence in the digital age of government websites, social media, and other messaging platforms such as WhatsApps and webinars. Our communication approach was based on the need to inspire behavior change and instill hope. As indicated earlier, when I quoted the words of Dr. Sanjay Gupta of the CNN, the response to GCIS campaigns and social media drives have been positive. South Africans in their numbers have continued to adhere to the call to wear masks in public, observe social distancing, and wash their hands with soap and water or 70% alcohol-based sanitizer. And we call upon South Africans to continue to adhere to this critical non-pharmaceutical health protocol. As our country commences with a mass vaccination program, and despite the challenges of access to vaccines that plague majority of the vaccine non-producing nations, GCIS is leading the mobilization of South Africans to register for vaccination through the Electronic Vaccination Digital System, EVDS. To date, over 1.6 million senior citizens and over 850,000 healthcare workers have signed up on the EVDS. We, working with the National Department of Health, provincial departments of health, the offices of the premiers, and the community health workers, GCIS is coordinating through its provincial offices the registration of those with no access to technology through home visits, whereas Department of Health continue to assist with manual registrations at vaccination sites. Honorable Chairpersons, the new normal forced everyone to adapt and change how they did things. And this was more noticeable in how GCIS adapted its communication interventions. GCIS introduced family meetings led by the head of the Family South Africa, His Excellency President Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa. Initially, GCIS held weekly briefings with ministers, which were disrupted during the second wave because we needed to protect lives of not only ministers, but staff who had to enable them even when they moved virtual. For the first time in the history of our nation, the GCIS facilitated a virtual imbizo. The plan is to reintroduce more family meetings that are not only focused on the fight against the pandemic, but provide information about the economic reconstruction and recovery plan to enable citizens to take advantage of the opportunities to improve their lives, but also to mobilize South Africans for the fight against corruption and the quest to build a capable state as part of citizens' contribution to nation building and enhancing and maintaining continuous national dialogue on the fight against gender-based violence and femicide and the pursuit of safe communities. This will be supported by media briefings led by ministers. Therefore, the GCIS will continue its coordination of the cluster communication program, although the agenda will be more program-based to ensure a single message, different angles communication, which is more impactful. In addition, various virtual platforms such as webinars continue to be used to enable participation of both experts and ordinary South Africans on various national dialogues. The GCIS, like other departments, equally adopted virtual platforms to interact with its stakeholders and its staff across the country to communicate in real time and more frequently. Regular meetings to share ideas and information and to identify and ultimately solve challenges became possible without leaving the comfort of one's home or desk. The GCIS has been able to interact with communicators across all spheres of government more regularly. These interactions have deepened our understanding of each other's roles, responsibilities, and challenges. These types of interactions will continue as they are cheaper, even beyond the new normal. Honorable members, community radio became one of the most effective platforms we utilized during this pandemic. In the process, GCIS increased its network of community radios from 60 to about 199 connected community radio stations. This increased network has sharply challenged progress attained in the transformation of the media through community media. The experience we have had has proven that the current model is not sustainable and does not impact on transformation of the media as envisaged when we established the MDDA. GCIS has been directed to work with the MDDA and the Department of Communications and Digital Technologies led by Minister Ndabeni Abrahams to review the model with the current legislative reviews. We are counting on the support of the Parliament to ensure that any legislative review benefits the transformation agenda of our country and the media sector is not left out. One of our flagship communication product, the South African Government News Agency, sanews.gov.za, continues to grow its presence in the digital media and communication space. Its content provides hard news, human interest features, social media links, and audio inserts, photographs, and videos. The agency has been at the forefront in providing pertinent information to citizens daily, including on health-related COVID-19 protocols. This financial year, the coverage will include the other 3 key government programs. GCIS continues to challenge itself in ensuring most of their products reflects all the official languages of the country. The government website, managed and maintained by GCIS, continues to provide its visitors with all information they need on government. For the past financial year, we were able to record at least 83 million page views. Furthermore, GCIS continues to maintain the multilingual Vuk'uzenzele newspaper to provide government-related information and opportunities, mainly to persons without access to the mainstream media. GCIS prints about 850,000 copies every 2 weeks, which makes it the largest print circulation in South Africa. It reaches even the most remote parts of the country, and it is also produced in Braille and is online and on the government app. Given the penetration of digital media for the protection of our trees, GCIS will survey the utilization of the hard copies of Vuk'uzenzele for possible switch and the protection of trees and the management of costs. Honorable members, throughout this period, GCIS also relied heavily on our colleagues in the media to carry messages from government to homes and communities, and we are indebted to this support. We are determined to sustain and build on the partnership with the media in the years ahead, including with media houses from across the continent and all other foreign correspondents. These partnerships will, however, not dilute our aggressive drive for direct and unmediated communication. In the 2020-21 financial year, the direct communication reached approximately 53 million people. Obviously, some were repeat audiences. Honorable members, the period ahead will be one of the most challenging in the history of our nation. Many new challenges lie ahead as we seek to rebuild our lives and our economy through both non-pharmaceutical health measures and the mass vaccination program. The country will have to hold the local government elections under the new normal, but GCIS is ready to work with COGTA and the IEC to get the public ready for the local government elections. Honorable Chairperson, I hereby table budget vote number 4 of the Government Communications and Information System to achieve the goal of an informed citizenry that is empowered to participate in the nation's public affairs. We want to also again plead with honorable members, members of South African society, all citizens of our republic, and all those who are within our republic to continue to adhere to the non-pharmaceutical health protocols of wearing masks in the public, when they're in public, washing their hands with soap and water, or sanitizing with 70% alcohol-based sanitizers, and maintaining the 1.5 meter social distance so that we prevent and minimize the impact of the third wave. Ndiaribuwa, Inkomu Tobela, thank you.
Roleboa, Honorable Minister. Proceed and call on the ANC, Ntate Molala, Nakokyalena.
Thanks, Honorable House Chairperson, Honorable Minister Kumbuzo Ntshavheni, Honorable Deputy Minister Sweya, Honorable members. It is with great sadness and regret that this budget vote debate takes place exactly 4 months since the passing of our beloved Minister Jackson Mpigwa Mthembu. COVID-19 has once again stolen our country's greatest treasure. He was loyal to government constitutional mandate to provide information to the citizens. And Minister Mthembu, through government communication and information system, has been hard at work, ensuring that government as a whole was able to communicate its work across our communities and in different spheres of government, particularly on COVID-19. It is now upon us to take the baton and continue to fight against this pandemic as we face a possible third wave now. In order to save our lives, we say Tumvelasi and his family will pick up the fallen spear and continue the war on poverty, underdevelopment, and all forms of corruption that plagues our country. We draw inspiration from your exemplary leadership. We will strengthen our resolve to ensure that the economic reconstruction and recovery plan is implemented in such a way that it brings inclusive growth and transform the economy to benefit all South Africans. It is on the basis of this backdrop that the department will deliver this financial year and focus on defeating the pandemic, accelerating economic recovery, economic reforms aimed at inclusive growth and job creation, and the twin objective of fighting corruption and building a capable state. The overview of the budget appropriation over MTF period is 7,489 million for 2021 and 2022, and 710 million for 2022-23, and 711.9 for 2023 and 2024. Compensation of employees comprises an average 38%, while transfer payments in respect of the appropriation to two public entities, Brand South Africa and Media Development and Diversity Agency, comprises 35% of the budget over the medium term. This budget reaffirms the ANC resolve to use technological and digital streams of communicating as we are in the fourth industrial revolution. This is the direction that all government departments ought to take so as to ensure more effective and efficient communication with the citizens of South Africa. It is also commendable that this budget, in line with the department's APP, prioritizes the employment of women, persons with disabilities. This is crucial for the ANC's transformation agenda. Various existing content platforms such as government websites, Vukusenzela newspaper, My District Today newsletter, government news were used to disseminate information on COVID-19, community media, especially community radio, and direct communication with citizens through the distribution of pamphlets were also prominent. The Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan announced by the President on the 15th of October 2020 continues to be the major communication program for the current financial year. Collaborating with the economic and investment cluster role players, an integrated communication approach program was infused with COVID-19 messaging, especially the country is moving towards the risk-adjusted level 3 to 1. Gender-based violence and femicide messages continue to find expression in all departments' print products. Online distribution and mass mobilization at local level. In the effort towards ensuring that government amplifies its messages to drive the delivery of services in an integrated and efficient way, the district development model will increasingly take center stage. District development model seeks to provide an integrated district-based service delivery approach to fast-track service delivery and ensure that municipalities are adequately supported and resourced to carry out their mandate. The department will keep communities and stakeholders abreast of government's progress on the implementation of DDM in 44 districts and 8 metropolitan municipalities across the country. To this end, the ANC is pleased that the department will hold 1,140 community and stakeholder liaison visits and 1,140 development communication projects per year over MTF period. Spending for these activities is largely driven by goods and services items, which account for 16.9%, which is in rands and cents 62.4 million of the total budget in the intergovernmental coordination and stakeholder management program. The ANC government policies such as the broad-based Black economic empowerment are directed at overcoming the legacy of apartheid with the ultimate aim of ensuring that the injustice of the past are overcome and that we build an inclusive economy that encourages Black women, youth, ownership control of the new existing enterprise. In this regard, the Charter for Marketing, Advertising and Communication, MAC, seeks to facilitate transformation within the advertising, public relations and communication industry as marketing vehicles in all media, including digital platforms. After various initiatives aimed at transforming the sector stalled despite the fact that MAC Charter Code had been gazetted in December 2016. On 3 September 2020, the late Minister Mthembu gazetted a call for nomination for general public and sector to nominate members to serve on MAC Charter Council. The call for nomination adverts were also placed on various platforms such as Sunday Times, Sowetan, Vukuzenzela newspapers in order to maximize public awareness. To date, GCIS have completed the security and academic verification process of this nomination, and the minister will soon appoint MAC Charter Council. And this Charter Council's role will be to oversee the implementation of MAC Charter Sector Code, monitoring compliance with MEC Charter Sector Code, providing guidance on matters relating to BEE in the MEC sector, developing baseline indicators for all different elements of BEE, engaging advertising sector, minister, GCIS, and other relevant regulatory entities regarding MEC sector code, availing themselves for presentation and meetings in Parliament regarding state transformation in the sector. Our determination to drive transformation in South African economy is clearly articulated in our manifesto, where we said we will build an economy in which all our people have a meaningful stake and from which they can all benefit. Close quote. This charter is one of the instruments that ANC government has put in place to ensure that we achieve radical economic transformation and then turn the tide in favor of the majority of our people who experience gross disparities in the past. Therefore, ANC will support this vote for on GCIS. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mulala. We will now listen to the speaker from the DA, Honorable Mbele.
Ndiyabulela sihlalo ngaphambili futhi mandibulise kuni nonke. It's good to see you again, Minister Ntshabeni. It seems that even with the change in our respective portfolios, siyalandelana everywhere. The GCIS is that rare instance in our public sector where one is compelled to give praise and credits where praise and credit is due. From its rapid dissemination of government information related to lockdowns and other responses to the COVID-19 pandemic, to maintaining clean audit outcomes for the past 6 financial years, this entity has proven to be adaptive and effective. As I expressed during the committee budget hearing last week, the GCIS is to be commended on the quality of the gov.za website, both for the comprehensiveness and detail of information on the portal, as well as generally being kept up to date. I've always found the website enormously useful when needing to find the contact information for the offices of cabinet ministers to send correspondence, or especially last year during the higher level lockdowns, to find the latest lockdown regulations as they were amended and promulgated. And also just generally to find documents such as Acts of Parliament, green and white policy papers, and other government gazettes. But Chairperson, if I may take a sidebar detour, I wish to raise a matter of concern that relates to the arena of government communications. Now, of course, it is entirely legitimate for any government to use public monies to promote its policies, programs, and performance achievements. But that must always be above board and with due recognition of the importance of a free and independent media sector that both informs and educates the public, but also acts as a watchdog and accountability mechanism on the government. That is why the DA was and remains deeply concerned by the shocking allegations brought before the Zondo Commission by Sydney Mufamadi 2 months ago that the State Security Agency had colluded with Africa News Agency to skew news reporting in favor of former President Jacob Zuma and the ANC government. The DA believes that it would be highly inappropriate for the SSA to have allegedly paid for the production and publication of positive stories about the South African government, because that, in fact, is the mandate of the GCIS. And even then, any pay for promotional content for the government would have to be carried in the form of advertorials, not news coverage. In a country plagued with the rot of corruption that has been allowed to take root in seemingly every nook and cranny of all spheres of government, media independence is vital for our constitutional democracy. That is why we have called for an urgent investigation by the Hawks and the National Prosecuting Authority into the corroborated allegations that Africa News Agency was paid 20 million rand over a period of 8 months to write positive stories about the previous administration and to provide quote unquote multimedia training to SSA agents. Noting that the GCIS enters the period ahead with a focus on the national COVID-19 vaccination rollout program, I have confidence that they will make every effort within their capacity and resources to carry out this task. It is therefore a shame, Chairperson, that the GCIS will in fact have minimal content to push out in this regard, given the slow and shambolic start of South Africa's official vaccine rollout by national government, and seemingly with very little sense of urgency. Only 2.6% of vaccination sites were ready to operate this week, just 87 of the more than 3,000 sites promised. More sites would have registered if backup generators weren't required for vaccine fridges. It has been a tragic case of ANC ESCOM failures compounding ANC vaccine failures. The poor communication concerning the logistics of this crucial endeavor is no fault of the GCIS, given that no detailed rollout program was published, and what little information there was communicated to the public in a piecemeal and haphazard fashion by the National Health Department. South Africa is heading into a third wave, unprotected and vulnerable. Lives and jobs will be lost unnecessarily, and the blame falls fairly and squarely on national governments with its obsession with centralized control. The private healthcare sector has been inexplicably underutilized, with only 4 private sector sites being operational when the clock hits T-0. This is astonishing when one considers the thousands of GPs and pharmacies across the country and the enormous potential of the private sector to deliver jabs to arms. It is inexplicable why so few permits have been issued to private sector operators to approve them as vaccination sites. The solution, quite simply, is to decentralize control to harness the full capabilities of the private sector. And when the value of public-private partnerships is fully harnessed, then the GCIS can deploy its full arsenal of talents, skills, and capability to inform the public about their options and avenues to access the range of service points and channels for getting in the appointment queues. We all want the vaccine rollout program to succeed. We all need to have engines firing on all pistons. And when that is the case, there is no doubt that the GCIS will optimize its performance in promoting maximum public knowledge and plug-in to vaccination. In our reports on the GCIS APP and budgets, the committee recommended that the minister in the presidency should ensure that there is proper monitoring of the implementation of the COVID-19 vaccine rollout program and provide regular updates to the committee. But Chairperson, there will be little to monitor and little for the GCIS to report to the committee if the vaccination program itself is stillborn and falls victim to delays, bottlenecks, and mismanagement. Turning to the public entities that receive transfer payments from this budget vote, it is patently clear and has been for a long time that Brand SA needs to give up the ghost and close shop. There is little to no discernible, unique, and proportionate value add that is obtained from this outfit. Investment and tourism attraction to South Africa should actually be front and center of the agenda of our foreign missions, and there is no compelling reason why the purported function of Brand SA cannot be mainstreamed into the programs and projects of our embassies and consulates abroad. Masivale lento ngokushesha. one time. The MDDA, as the second entity to receive transfer payments, plays a crucial role in supporting and encouraging a diversified media landscape, and we want them to succeed in their mandate. Thus, we are happy to back their investments in the intended 3 research projects per year over the medium term to develop a sustainability model for community and small commercial media projects. This enterprise will require creativity, out-of-the-box thinking, and willingness to embrace partnership building that leverages all available resources from business, civic, and philanthropic sectors. Without doubt, there are reader, viewer, and listener audiences out there for the various community and niche media outlets on the landscape, as well as potential sponsors and advertisers to tap into that can make this a sustainable, if not profitable, arena. The imperative of enabling historically disadvantaged communities to gain access to, as well as to build the capacity to produce media, whether through storytelling of community and cultural narratives or through independent citizen journalism, is too important to fail. Chairperson, if there is one area where I would propose that the GCIS could add more value to their already sterling work, it would be in piloting, championing, and driving a project where they and other government departments buy regular airtime slots for open call-in shows on mainstream and community radio stations, where the presidents and cabinet ministers would take calls and SMSs from members of the public about their queries and complaints relating to government policy and service delivery, which would then be logged and followed up on through internal channels for resolution and feedback. This was previously implemented in Cape Town through the monthly Premier and Mayor show on Heart FM, and currently through Mayor Dan Plato's monthly radio show on Bush Radio, Radio Helderberg, 1FM, Radio Zbonele, Atlantis FM, Radio Tygerberg, and Voice of the Cape FM. Radio remains the most widespread and accessible media conduit for most households to access news and information, and so the ability to call in and report the issues and concerns of their communities live on air directly to ministers and the presidents would give our citizens a true sense of connection with those who govern much of their lives. If we are serious about bringing governments closer to the people, that is certainly one feasible way to do it. In closing, Chairperson, and without meaning in any way to negate, demean, or diminish the excellent work done by the practitioners in the GCIS, our government simply needs to do better in terms of service delivery and giving our citizens and taxpayers value for their money. In the absence of that, as is far too often the case and has been for far too long, the GCIS is left with the unenviable task of trying to decorate a turd with gold spray paint. We know from our oversight and constituency work at the grassroots that things are not rosy, that much is lacking, and that there is major room for improvement. Our government needs to fix the fundamentals and get the basics right so that the picture that is painted in government communications is matched by real, daily lived experience of communities on the ground. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. We move now and invite the EFF, Nyan.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. The EFF rejects the proposed budget for government communication and information system, and we reject it with the contempt it deserves. There is no government communication in South Africa because there's no service delivery. The failure to properly position GCIS has undermined one of the most important pillars of our democracy, which is access to information by all. Instead, what we have in GCIS is propaganda machinery for the ruling party that serves to sanitize the failures of government. The little that GCIS does on a daily basis amounts to nothing because government departments do not have the capacity and competence to communicate their plans and achievements because there is none. As the EFF, we have constantly raised our concern that the mandate and capacity of GCIS is being wasted as the department is now turned into the president's communication and PR desk. And they also double up as the ruling party graphic design and communication desk. This is made worse by the fact that the GCIS capacity and budget has been reduced drastically in the recent past without any response in terms of how to reposition government communication. What has been the most devastating collapse of government communication is its printing component. We've made proposal in the past that GCIS must be decentralized and be linked with municipalities to ensure that it does not only exist in Gauteng near national departments. While we appreciate that the world is moving with time towards a paperless service delivery-based system, the reality for millions of our people in rural areas and township is that they do not know the services they deserve and how to access these services because there is no communication from the government. We said, if you cannot send them messages, send pamphlets and inform them about their rights to water, electricity, and many other services. Print pamphlets to inform them about how to access home affairs services, land and rural development services, mineral and energy services. Responsibilities within individual government departments have failed. We propose that GCIS be decentralized so that each and every municipal office has the capacity to communicate with citizens and to be the link between all spheres of government and the people. We propose that GCIS be decentralized because this will build local economies for small Black businesses in townships and rural areas who are involved in communication and information systems, and not only businesses based in Paarl here in the Western Cape. We propose that GCIS must work closely with PAN-SALB, the constitutional institution responsible for the development of all indigenous languages, so that we move away from communicating with people only in English and Afrikaans when they access government services. More than 25 years since the advent of our democracy, the majority of our people cannot access government communication or information system that improve their lives, let alone access communication in their own languages. We propose that GCIS work closely with Stats SA so that our people have access to information to make informed decisions to engage government services better. But the government is cutting both GCIS and Stats SA's budget. Chairperson, GCIS should be at the forefront of transformation of the broader communication industry. The majority of government tenders for outdoor and all other forms of advertising are still being given to white-owned companies. The majority of COVID-19 communication, including social media, should have been used to allow Black media-owned companies to play an active role in communicating COVID-19 protocols in such a way that our people relate to government messaging. But because the same old white-owned companies are printing billboards, curating advert messages, and everything else, this also played a role of too much mismanagement of what was supposed to be communicated from the onset, and GCIS failed to play a meaningful role. Lastly, Chairperson, GCIS is supposed to be at the forefront of government communication modernization, but there is no believable plan on how this is going to be achieved. Instead, what we see every day is a government communication machinery that has come to a standstill. There is no government communication in South Africa, and our people are left in the dark. The EFF rejects this budget, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
We need now and invite the IFP, Mama.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. The IFP applauds the efforts of the Department of Government Communication and Information System in promoting active citizenship. Yes, Chair, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly, ma. Proceed.
You can hear me? Oh, okay. The IFP applauds the efforts of the Department of Government Communication and Information System in promoting active citizen participation and uniting all South Africans around the common goal. In keeping the country informed about issues affecting the country, the ministry in the 2019-2020 financial year distributed 19.35 million copies of the Vukuzenzele newspaper, a free newspaper published every fortnight. The distribution of this newspaper through knock and drops and access points, including post offices and Tusong service centers, has enabled the newspaper to be accessed in some hard-to-reach remote areas. However, as much as we applaud these efforts, we find the service delivery model of the Tusong Service Center to be lacking, established with the aim of operationalizing the government's development communication approach, as well as addressing information and services gaps to historically marginalized areas. These centers have had their own share of problems. We note with concern the millions spent to construct each one of these centers and how some of them are now dysfunctional. The launch of a campaign to fight corruption by the department, the Anti-Corruption Tuma Mina Pledge campaign, launched on 7 August 2018 in collaboration with Business Unity South Africa, is also worth mentioning. This marked an important turning point in the history of the country in the fight against corruption and seemed to show commitment by the department to end this problem. Most importantly, this displayed an end to the denialism by government on the existence of corruption. Nonetheless, the IFP is of the view that such a populist approach to addressing this challenge might be a piecemeal and largely cosmetic. We were therefore not surprised when Tuma Mina was seemingly set aside, as government officials and entrepreneurs under various PPE procurement deals displayed the level of rot that still exists in the country. We watched in shock as billions of rands were looted through various PPE scandals in different government departments. More than 600 companies in the country were investigated by the Special Investigation Unit over irregular COVID-19 PPE contracts, valued at more than 7 billion. The IFP wishes to express its deepest disappointment regarding this matter. Corruption in this country goes deeper than we think. We support the ministry's use of technology in delivering messages from the government to the citizens of South Africa. However, our concern is that there are no plans in place from the department to bridge the digital divides that exist in the country. Internet access remains out of reach for more than 50% of our rural population and is not always comprehensive in urban areas. The department, in its mandate to use technology to convey government messages, needs to work with other relevant government ministries to address this digital divide. The IFP supports the budget. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, and the next next, the Minister in the Honourable Way.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning. Members of the Portfolio Committee, on behalf of Communications, led by Boyce Maneli. Am I audible?
Yes, you are, ma'am.
Am I audible? Okay, thank you. Honorable members, ladies and gentlemen, and fellow South Africans,
You are.
am I audible?
We can hear you very clearly.
Okay. No, thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. It is a pleasure for me to co-present the Government Communication and Information Systems budget vote together with Minister Ntshavheni. Government Communication and Information System is GCIS. So when I will be presenting, when I mention GCIS, fellow South Africans, members of Parliament, you just keep in mind that it's Government Communication and Information Systems. We want to appreciate the Minister for her keen commitment and willingness to take over the task of steering the ministry in the presidency after we had suffered a great loss when Minister Mthembu suddenly succumbed to this virus. Indeed, Minister Mthembu played an important role in laying the foundation for a coherent government communication system that reaches and empowers our citizens. His commitment to the diversification of the media is as a result of part of what we continuously want to do, which is to ensure that there's democracy. Chair, the GCIS is indeed an important stakeholder in the diversification and development of the media. Hence, part of their allocation supports the work of the Media Diversity and Development Agency, which is what we call the MDDA. The MDDA is mandated by the Constitution and its own act to support and promote media development and diversity. It's also entrusted that these pieces of legislation which are created are able to enable an environment which will deepen democracy, ensure enjoyment of media freedom, and all principles in our Bill of Rights. We are pleased that the MDDA continues to deliver on its mandate as derived from these pieces of legislation and national policy priorities, despite challenges which are related to budgets and the emergence of COVID-19. The groundwork for establishing a diversified media landscape is increasingly becoming a reality, and many citizens are able to actively participate in shaping their communities. And as MDDA, we continue to ensure that we allow our citizens to participate in these platforms. Chairperson, the role of community media sector is more visible now as we battle in this pandemic. Let me give you an example. The GCIS and many other government departments have relied on community media to communicate about COVID-19 and the messages which we wanted to take to our communities. They've also assisted us to be able to talk to our people in their languages about protocols and regulations of COVID-19. Community medias reach into, let me give you examples, the remote communities, and it's committed to broadcasting, publishing in languages of those communities. What it has also meant to do is that it has been able, and it continues to play a vital role in creating a platform for raising awareness of sharing and giving our people information around critical national issues. And these issues, we do them in all our official languages. We must also note, Chair and fellow South Africans, that this sector was not immune to the disruption caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Although the MDDA provided relief fund over 2 phases to a range of community media platforms, and this we did, if you remember, in 2020 in March, when the president announced that we're going on a lockdown, we have been able to also give relief funding to various community media platforms. Although the MDDA provided relief funding over the 2 phases to a range of community media platforms, the emergence of the pandemic worsened the challenge of sustainability in the sector. In the past years, the MDDA has been in consultation with various stakeholders to build a sustainable community media sector and ensure that it continues to be a platform for community involvement and skills development. As a result, fellow South Africans and members of parliament, the MDDA has launched a major research initiative that will guide the development of a community media sustainability model. It is anticipated that this model will define the interventions required to assist the community media sector to become sustainable and dependent on their potential to self-sustainability. Actually, in the MDDA, every day when we speak, we say, how are we going to assist the community media sector to be independent on their own? The model will also factor in the need to upscale the skills for all functionaries. And these functionaries are all functionaries in the sector. Skills upliftment we will recognize it as a key sustainability of the community media sector. In the next 5 years, the MDDA will work with all key stakeholders to develop a capacity building strategy as part of the sustainability model. And we will also, what we'll do as the MDDA, what they will do is to consider all the skills that were identified as critical in the sustenance of the community media sector. While the advent of the 4th IR and the emergence of new media presents to us opportunities for community media. Now, what are these new opportunities which are presented by the 4th IR? The increasing audience and readership reach. We and the MDDA have also presented new challenges which we have identified as loss of revenue and the lack of skills in the use of new digital and social media platforms, and that we want to correct so that we can move in line with the new emergence of the 4th IR. The MDDA is intensifying its support to the community media sector to assist it to transition smoothly and seamlessly into a new digital media era. This will be based on what you call Agency Recent Development Digital Strategy. The agency also recognizes that its current funders, national government, and mainstream broadcaster sector are themselves faced with cost containment requirements. And they are also faced with competing priorities. These are brought about by new emerging technologies. They are brought about by 4th IR. And therefore, they require us to bring new innovative ways to do things. The agency has therefore developed a funding strategy which we will implement in the 2021-2022 financial year in order to attract financial and other support for the community media sector. This will include approaching local and international donors, corporates, government entities, and other potential funders. The demand for funding support is huge, and it far exceeds the budget capacity of the MDDA. Every year, the MDDA, through its annual call for applications, we receive applications for grant funding far in excess of what we can accommodate in its current financial sourcing. Such applications include funds for assisting in projects, many of those projects are faced with closure due to lack of revenue, high cost of maintaining their entities, while others are new applicants. Chairperson and fellow South Africans, we want to extend our gratitude to all funders who continue to support the project of diversifying and developing the media landscape. We want to urge communities to take ownership of this community media platform and provide the necessary support. We are grateful to the board, the CEO, and then the entire staff for their commitment to fulfill the mandate of the MDDA. We also want to thank, led by the Chair, Honorable Maneli, the Portfolio Committee for continuing to guide us, to advise us in relation to how we must work with the entity. Ever since we were appointed to lead and provide political oversight to this institution, we have had clean audits.
Thank
and we
you.
want Parliament for that.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Your time is up.
Thank you, thanks, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, we now proceed to the ACDP and we invite the Honorable Thring.
Honorable House Chairperson, the ACDP acknowledges the importance of this department. Communication or media is a powerful tool, having both the ability to inform as well as influence and shape opinions on a variety of subjects. The ACDP wishes to commend the department on achieving another clean audit, as well as attaining a low vacancy rate of 8.8%, and for partnering with institutions or for persons with disabilities in order to recruit the targeted number of persons from this group. The ACDP notes the departmental appropriation of some 749 million for the 21-22 financial year, where almost 60% of the budget is allocated to Program 2, which is content processing and dissemination. Some of the main objectives of this program are to provide strategic leadership and support in government communications by conducting research on the public opinion, increase the share of government's voice and messaging in the public domain. The mandate of the department is to foster transparency and to provide the public with information that is timely, accurate, and accessible. It is to ensure democratic strength through rapid communication of government's achievements, but it is the ACDP's view that this democratic strength lies in the plurality of voices within our multi-party democracy, and not in the voice or manifesto of the ruling party alone. Clearly, much of the communication in the last year has focused on the national state of disaster and the COVID-19 lockdown. And it is in this area that the ACDP has a bone of contention with the department. We call, for example, for the lifting of the harsh lockdown as early as May 2020, but you would not listen. We warned that the harsh lockdown would decimate our economy, leaving a worse after effect than the virus itself, but you would not listen. We warned that the millions of jobs would be lost and our GDP would contract and government debt would increase, but you would not listen. We call for the public to be informed of ways to boost their immune systems as the first line of defense against the virus, but still you would not listen. We call for the unbanning and the use of the safe drug ivermectin as a treatment for COVID-19, but you would not listen until we took the Minister of Health and SAPRA to court and won, but still you do not listen. We call for the rollout of vaccine. You call for the rollout of vaccines still on trial as so safe that the manufacturers refuse to accept liability for any death or injury from their safe vaccines, forcing the South African government to establish a vaccine injury no-fault compensation scheme, with some vaccine manufacturers allegedly asking our government to put up our sovereign assets as collateral for their vaccines. Your silence on these matters is deafening. If this department becomes complicit in shutting down every differing voice while proclaiming to propagate free speech, and if the only voice you listen to is your own, then may God help us all. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Thring. Is the UDM in the house? No. ATM? No. As I call on the Honorable Mthembu, I would like to invite my colleague, Honorable Jumat Peterson, to take over the chair. Honorable Mthembu of the ANC. Honorable Mtembu of the ANC. Can I get an indication? Let me check here if we have Mtembu.
We don't, Chair. We can move on to the next speaker.
I hope that there will be communication to us because we have a name here. Can I hand over to the Honorable Jumat Peterson, the ANC? Please make sure that you get your speaker.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Could we have the NFP, please? Do we have a speaker from the NFP? Could we move on, AIC? If not, COPE. Honorable Member, do we have the PAC? Al-Jama? If not, whilst we are waiting for Honorable Mtembu, I will now give Honorable Faku an opportunity. The ANC saved time with Honorable Motlala. So Honorable Faku, you have an additional time. You may take 3 minutes. If Honorable Mtembu is not here, you could have 5 minutes. I call upon Honorable Faku.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Ministers and Deputy Ministers, Honorable Minister Kumbutsa Chabeni, Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Communication, Mr. Boyce Maneli, Honorable Members of Parliament, esteemed guests connected virtually, ladies and gentlemen, comrades and friends. It is a pleasure for me to be part of the Government Communication and Information System budget vote. The African National Congress supports this budget vote. May is Africa Month. We must continue to promote the African agenda and strengthening the African Union institutions and policies. We must also implement and bring to life the AU Agenda 2063 and promote regional integration, empower people through knowledge and information. During this year of Mama Charlotte Maxeke, whilst combating the coronavirus pandemic, we must improve our efforts in strengthening government communication and repositioning of the South African brand. With the coronavirus outbreak, we need a resilient disaster management system, well capacitated to lead a disaster management response, an effective and inclusive communication strategy. We also need to strengthen relations between the different spheres of government with communities and non-governmental sectors. South Africa in March was already in a vulnerable economy, having experienced 2 consecutive quarters of a recession when it was hit by the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, thus deepening the economic crisis. Capable leadership of Umongameli wethu, President Ramaphosa, assisted when he communicated our determination as a country in responding to COVID-19 crisis and said, open quote, "We're determined merely to return our economy to where it was before the coronavirus, but to forge a new economy in a new global reality," close quote. South Africa launched an economic reconstruction and recovery plan, which has 3 phases. 1, engage and preserve, which includes comprehensive health responses to save lives and curb the spread of the pandemic. 2, recovery and reform, which includes intervention to restore the economy while controlling the health risk. And lastly, reconstruct and transform, which entail building a sustainable, resilient, and inclusive economy. The GCIS and its entities together command and lead in communication and information space. Their roles are central in ensuring together as communities, people, businesses, and all, we work to forge this new economy. Effective communication is critical and fundamental for us to succeed. Whilst limited resources is given, the extent of the task ahead, given the financial constraint, the budget vote allocation and the annual performance plans enable the GCIS to do much with little. Right through all three phases of the ERRP, we need an effective and efficient, strong, integrated, coordinated government communication, community and small commercial media, and brand South Africa. Monday, the 17th of May, was the celebration of the World Telecommunication and Information Society Day under the theme, Accelerating Digital Transformation in Challenging Times. Digitization, digital skilling, and transformation is key as we navigate the battle against the COVID-19. It is an opportunity to fast-track our entrance into the digital economy. The African National Congress appreciates the GCIS exploration of innovative ways to improve and persuade on its mandate. The system needs leverage on opportunities brought about by new technologies and digital platforms to carry out the message of government to all South Africans. For example, the public broadcaster, which is the SABC, is on multi platforms online, which is called DTT, on satellite, which is called DTH. Some community and small commercial media, which is both radio, print media, and TV, are streaming online, social media act. GCIS has also its multiple media, digital platforms, radio, print, and social media. GCIS needs to invest more in the direction, produce more unmediated communication, use all other platforms to improve interactions with citizens. We can also enhance the South African brand through the use of digital platforms, as some innovative opportunities are cost-effective. Red SA can do more with the limited resources. We acknowledge the GCIS realization of the new review in its internal business system and its own information technology strategy, in line with the department's business requirements. The Portfolio Committee appreciates the improvement in government communication led by the late Minister Jackson Tembo, Umvelase, may his soul rest in peace, as part of the building state capacity ever since the beginning of the sixth administration, as this responded to all committee recommendations to strengthen government communication, improve use of public, community, and small commercial media. We have seen positive results arising from the Cabinet's approval of the Integrated Government Communication Framework. These are visible to everyone as we are combating the COVID-19 first and second wave. As we could have seen, Chair, in many TVs where President was going to speak, most communities were excited. So that is part of the work that GCIS has done. The committee hopes that GCIS will use the same efforts and more similar energies during the vaccination and implementation and the third wave to create an informed and knowledgeable society. Information ways to contribute significantly to the fight against the pandemic. We dare not lower our guards, and the committee will support government in its work during the disaster management period. The innovative ideas used to package information improves access to information, and partnerships should be adopted as ways of improving the work of GCIS going forward. GCIS should, through the Integrated Government Communication Framework, coordinate all three spheres of government, ensure that through the district development models, not only do we have one plan and one budget, but in addition, one message and many voices. Government partnership and usage of public broadcasting platforms and community and small commercial media in languages spoken by our people, but relevant information to their needs and their respective district must increase and improve. The committee hopes that the budget vote and APPs will continue to address the issues of redistribution, gender justice, poverty, and unemployment. The committee appreciates the low vacancy rate at the GCIS and the gender balance. In this year of Mamu Charlotte Maxeke, as the African National Congress, we acknowledge and see and appreciate the successful women leadership displayed in the GCIS. Long live Amakhosikazi Malibongwe. In closing, I would like to read the following quote from the late Minister Jackson Tembo, which said, "Government communication must not be news, must not be celebrities. They must be available at all times, speak languages spoken by our communities, and be humble, I hope going forward there will never be news. ANC support this budget vote. Ndiyabulela. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Faku. I now call upon the Honorable Acting Minister in the Presidency. Honorable Acting Minister, your time starts now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Jomat Peterson, the chairperson of the session. I'd like to thank the support of the budget by members of the House from various parties, with one exception who I will deal with. And I'd like to acknowledge Honorable Mbele that I seem to be following you. Maybe you must stop moving so that I don't move around too much. And on the matters you've raised around the testimonies at the Zondo Commission, Honorable Mbele, we need to allow the Zondo Commission to conclude its work and give us a final report. But I need to assure you that in terms of the GCIS and the 6th administration, our commitment is that the media independence is sacrosanct, and where there are partnerships with the media, they are upfront declared. And we will not do any other shenanigans because we believe in the independence of the media and the objective reporting by the media. And we're not necessarily saying the media is always objective, but we're saying we expect the media to also be objective, and therefore there's no need to be buying them. You raised an issue around the vaccine sites. As I've indicated in the speech, the number of vaccine sites is impacted by the availability of vaccines. As we sit, you are aware that as South Africa, we had commitments from J&J in terms of their vaccine being available and the large numbers being available. And given the particular strain that is prevalent in our shores, there are few vaccines that are available for that are available, that are affordable, which is J&J and Pfizer. But with the current situation in the USA, where the FDA has put a hold until they conclude the investigations, which are now led by the Senate on the J&J, that vaccine is not available. Government had prepared over 3,335 sites, but unfortunately, those sites could not be activated immediately with the rollout of the second phase, the mass vaccination. And if you recall, we had explained that the vaccination program is in partnership with the business. And that's why when we are sitting today, Clicks, Discovery Health, Discam, and also the other private practitioners are able to vaccinate. Of course, the commencement of phase 2 has not commenced in a manner that would have wanted because of the limited number of vaccines. In that regard, given the bottlenecks which we are facing, not only South Africa, but all of the developing world who do not produce vaccines. That's why the president and who lobbied India to start the demand at the World Trade Organization for the waiver of the TRIPS to allow us who have capacity to manufacture vaccines to manufacture these vaccines in our country. You know of the efforts that we are undertaking as a country between BioVac and Immunity Bio of Dr. Patrick Son-Sheong, to manufacture vaccines in South Africa, but also with the TRIPS waiver, if that happens, Aspen will also be able to manufacture the vaccines without reliance on a J&J, because the technology and the formulas and the patents would have been waived for them to be able to do. We are, as a country, blessed that we've got two very able vaccine manufacturing companies within our shores, Aspen, which is based in Durban and Gqeberha, and also BioVac, which is partly owned by government as the largest shareholder, and the private sector. So our partnership with the private sector is not limited. Our partnership with private sector it's very detailed, and including the communication. That's why even Discovery pronounced that they could not vaccinate on the 17th when we commenced because of challenges on their own part. So we are vaccinating. You made a suggestion that we must do open calls. We had started with open calls, but we chose to use community radio station as part of increasing the listenership in community radio stations, because if they have an increased listenership, it increases their ability to raise revenue and reduce their dependence on the MDDA. I, for one, has done the call-in session with the through the 199 community radio stations earlier in the year. Minister Lamula has done, and the president is scheduled. Maybe we'll have to improve the frequencies of those call-in sessions, because they are very informative for the listeners and the public, but also it allows government to remain in contact with the people. In terms of the EFF, Honorable Hlonyana, maybe the EFF must start to assess its own vintage position, because it is obviously de-linked with the realities. The world over, the GCIS and South Africa is commended for the sterling work we did in communicating the message around COVID-19 prevention, and thus being successful in managing the numbers. But I'm not surprised, even South Africans are starting to reject the EFF or the noise from the EFF. So you can continue to make noise, but South Africans are rejecting you. And maybe before the EFF leaves this house, because you are going to leave this house 2024 when we go to the general elections, signs from all the by-elections that have been held in the country shows a strong indication that you're going to be history in this house. Maybe let's educate you. The GCIS does not operate at a national level. GCIS operates at a provincial level and also at the local level. And if you had listened to my speech, we had indicated that GCIS provincial offices have been coordinating with the provincial departments of health and offices of the Premier. And that work we do because we know the importance of being on the ground. We continue to communicate with our communities. We continue to get feedback. It is through the work that we have said GCIS has been doing to mobilize the door-to-door for registration for those who don't have access to technology. But of course, you don't listen. You are good at listening to your own voices, but what do you expect from empty vessels? And to the Honorable Majosi, we appreciate the support you have given to the budget vote, and we have taken note of the concern you have raised around the Tusong Service Center. But let me also take the opportunity to explain to you or to update you that between the Department of Small Business Development, Communications and Digital Technologies, and COGTA, and in support of the GCIS, we are putting programs to make sure that the Tusong Service Centers remain as centers for service delivery of government, or centers where people can go to get information on service delivery. Through the Department of Small Business Development and the Department of Communications and Digital Technologies, we are also considering some of the Tusong service centers to implement our digital hubs, that we are making sure that small businesses, micro businesses can have access to information, not only information, but can have access to training and business facilities that they mostly lack, because we believe that we don't need to put new facilities in place, but we optimize the use of government facilities that are already in existence. This is in addition to the post offices that we continue with the digital communications and digital technologies to make sure that they also participate as digital hubs, and the TVET colleges and the universities who are now coming in to become digital hubs or centers for entrepreneurships in our townships and rural areas. Honorable Thring, I don't know what to say to you, because we have been proven as government over and over again that the decisions that have been taken by the NCCC, the National Coronavirus Coordinating Command Council, is not a thumbsuck decision. We are informed by science. Earlier in the last year, you were jumping up and down to say fast-track vaccination, fast-track vaccination. And when we finally got the vaccines, because we're clear that our vaccination program will be informed by science and best care in terms of quality and the guarantee of the safety of our people, we got our scientists who told the world that a particular variant that is prevalent in this country is not going to be treatable through the AstraZeneca vaccine. And it is us as a government who said what then should become the next vaccine programs. It's us as the government who said, how do we then implement this? Remember, we were the first country to also enforce the masks and the social distancing when yourself as the ACDP was declining those things. And we said to you, science has told us that this thing may be airborne, and therefore the need for social distancing and the mask. When you were demanding that mass gatherings must be done, and I will not remind you of who got infected at a mass gathering, it was us who said congregate settings are not good for the spread of the mass gatherings. We know the South Korea, the Korea example, when people were infected in church, and guess who was also infected by the COVID-19 virus in church? I will not want to mention names, at least the parliamentary immunity does not sufficiently cover me. But Honorable Threng, our decisions as the government in terms of how we manage the coronavirus has always prioritized the saving of lives and the saving of livelihoods. And by the way, we're fully aware that livelihoods we can rebuild, but lives lost can never be rebuilt. Many colleagues we have lost in this house can never be woken up because we were then rushing to save the lives of the economy. And by the way, if you have checked the Statistics SA reports, and yesterday the Reserve Bank also gave you a revision of the growth projection, they're projecting a 4.2 growth, not what we had anticipating of the almost 2% growth, because we have committed ourselves to say we are going to put all hands on deck to recover this economy, to reconstruct this economy, to make it inclusive. Quarter in and quarter out, month in and month out, since we started to reopen the economy and focus on rebuilding the livelihoods, because we think we've got all in place to protect the lives of South Africans, we have started to make sure that the manufacturing sector is growing, the resource or commodity sector, which is mining, is growing, the trade is growing, retail sector is growing, a service sector is growing. There is nothing that is growing, is not growing in this country. And by the way, the agricultural sector never slowed down, because amongst all these things, the agricultural sector, because we understood the importance of food security, remained operational, and those in retail sector that were important for food security remained operational. And we brought those sectors of our economy into the full stream when it was possible and earliest to do so and safest to do so. Because we care of our workers, we don't only care about the income, we care of the lives of workers of this country, because they are mothers and fathers, some of them are single parents, and the nations and generations to come need to be raised by their parents and not be orphaned. And because we know the impact that the virus has had on devastating family lives and community lives, and therefore we could not contribute in that. That's why we've always advocated for a responsible protection of livelihoods, but our priority has always been the saving of lives. As we speak today, the economy of South Africa is in the cusp of growing faster than we had anticipated even before the lockdown. As we speak today, South Africa's manufacturing sector is about to exceed the expectations of the manufacturing sector of the last 10 years, because we have put programs in place through the economic reconstruction and recovery, such as the localization drive that prioritizes supporting the entrance or the growth of manufacturing in the SMME sector. We have prioritized the skilling of our people in digital skills and making sure that what was termed the future of life of work, which is the present day of work, our people are there. We have implemented programs that make sure that our majority of our youth are absorbed or given opportunities in the work sector, and therefore preparing them for the market, not only as job seekers, but also as employment creators. So, Honorable Threng, we don't use thumbsuck, we don't use other wishes. We are a government with plans informed by science and facts and research. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, Acting Minister in the Presidency. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson Boroto. Thank you to all the members who participated in the debate. I thank the staff, honorable members. That brings us to the end of the business of today. The House is now adjourned. I thank you.
Thank you, House Chairperson.